All right, guys. So today I'm going to be talking about 7 entrepreneur habits that made me an online business millionaire in my 20s. And these are going to be the habits that if I had a time machine and I could just travel back in time and I could just tell myself to do these things to save myself a ton of time, effort, and money, I would do it, right? Like, this is exactly what I would tell myself, right? If I had maybe like 15 minutes to tell myself to do these things, these are the things that made the biggest difference for me. And this is what I would tell myself if I traveled back in time. So let me go ahead. I'm going to share my screen and we're going to jump right into it. The first one is going to be give value and expect nothing in return. So this right here is a very cringe picture of me when I was in pharmacy school. So this was like my professional photo that I took in pharmacy school. And, as a lot of you know, I was actually a pharmacist before I, became a YouTuber and started doing business. And what a lot of you don't know is I was actually the president of my pharmacy school class. Now, how exactly did I do that? Because I was pretty introverted, pretty nerdy, kind of socially awkward in many ways. So how in the world just look at my picture, right? Like, how in the world did I become the president of my pharmacy school class? Well, what I did is I gave value and I expected nothing in return. So when we first began in pharmacy school, the tests were really difficult, right? It's no joke. It's like a doctoral program and it's an accelerated program, and the tests were not easy at all. And what I did is I noticed a lot of people were struggling, and I started making these Quizlets. There's this website called Quizlet where you can make these kind of like flashcards, sort of where you can test yourself, but it's online, so it's a lot more easily accessible. And so I started making these Quizlets and basically predicting what questions were going to be on the test. And I started doing this and just sharing it with a bunch of other people. And what ended up happening is it helped a ton of people out. And then a bunch of people kept on just telling me like, hey, you should run for class president, because, that was like a few months in when that was supposed to happen. And I was just like, oh, no, I'm not going to run for class president. What in the world? Like, no way. I definitely wouldn't win that because I wasn't the most popular or anything like that. There were much more like popular people in the class. But I just ran just because a bunch of people told me to do it. And the night before, there was another guy I was running against. He posted like a rap video where he was like, it was hilarious. It was like a really amazing rap video. And I was like, there is absolutely no way I'm going to be able to do this, right? And I ended up winning in a landslide, right? I ended up winning in an absolute landslide. So this is two different lessons. First of all, solve people's problems rather than entertain them, because when you entertain them, they kind of see you as a dancing clown and they don't really take you that seriously. Whereas when you solve people's problems, they're much more likely to actually, vote for you or buy your products and stuff like that. But the second and most important thing is you give value and you expect nothing in return. And that was just one example. That was the first time that I really learned this concept. Like, I'd heard this so many times before. Give value, give value, give value. There's this guy, Owen from RSD, Real Social Dynamics, that I would follow. It's kind of like a weird dating type of thing. I think a lot of guys go through that phase. And he would always say, give value, give value, give value. And he would hammer that into my head. And people say that all the time on the internet, give value, give value, give value. But what I see a lot of people doing is they give value and then they just stare at you with puppy dog eyes. Right? They're like, oh, what are you going to do for me now? Right? So it's like, it's kind of cringe. It's like a guy who goes up to a girl at a bar and buys her a drink and then he expects her to come home with him, right? Like, it wasn't genuine when you expect something in return. So you want to give value and expect nothing in return. And when people see that, when they see you're just genuinely trying to help them, they are going to go out of their way to help you as well. It's reciprocity, right? Good people have this natural urge to help people who helped them in a genuine way, right? It's reciprocity. Robert Cialdini, I think that's his name. He writes books like Persuasion and Persuasion, and he talks about this reciprocity thing, and it's incredibly powerful. And when you give value and expect nothing in return, people will go out of their way to help you. I'm telling you guys, this is like a freaking magic trick, okay? This is like a cheat code in life. I can't tell you how many times, whenever I start a new business, what I do is I just offer to either work with people for very, very cheap, like an extremely affordable price, or I offer to work with them for free. And, for instance, when I started my business helping people grow and make money on YouTube and get clients from YouTube, which is this is like my second business that I do now and I focus on, I helped people in my network, like other business owners who wanted to start on YouTube. I helped them start their YouTube. I got them insanely good results, and they were more than happy to give me a testimonial. And I can't tell you how many times I've done this in my life, and it's just made a massive difference, guys. Give value and expect nothing in return, okay? Extremely important. I mean, just over and over again, there's so many different points I could make up. I could make an entire video just on this one concept alone. And maybe I will. If you want me to, I will. But let's go ahead and move to number 2 on the list, which is solve the money problem first, then solve other problems, okay? This is also incredibly important because I see people getting this backwards all the time. So many people I know that were incredibly talented, they could have been much more successful than myself, right? Much more talented than me, much more naturally talented. They went down the wrong path. And a lot of it came from, for instance, chasing women early on in your life. I can't tell you how many people, how many guys I know. Honestly, one of my absolute best friends, he pretty much ruined all of his potential, at least up to this point. Hopefully he fixes it in the future, but he ruined all his potential because he was chasing women throughout his youth. And he was just wasting money, wasting time, wasting energy and effort chasing women. And when you solve the money problem first, and it's not just chasing women, there's lots of other things, like trying to go out of your way to have fun, like party all the time and all this kind of stuff. When you focus on those other things and you prioritize those other things, the truth is you only have so much time in the day, and you can't prioritize everything at once. So you have to prioritize one thing or maybe 2 things max at a time. And really what you should do is you should prioritize money, because once you get the money problem fixed, all the other problems are so much easier to fix. Money doesn't solve every single problem, but it helps you to solve every single problem. And for instance, if you chase excellence instead of chasing women, the women will eventually come to you after you've achieved excellence, right? They'll come to you. It's just natural. And it's such a waste of time. I remember, like I mentioned with the whole RSD thing, I was getting into that whole like dating women and trying to pick up girls and stuff like that. And it was kind of a huge waste of time in many ways because, I was going after girls that, first of all, aren't even marriage material most of the time. I was just trying to get laid a lot of the time. And I was just spending so much of my time and effort doing that, when it's much more effective to just become the guy who deserves to have like girls, you know what I mean? Like just become that guy instead of trying to like learn how to do tips and tricks and stuff like that. It's just so silly. And there's this Maslow's hierarchy of needs, right? So you've got your physiological needs. This is the very bottom. Air, water, food, shelter, sleep, clothing, reproduction, just the absolute basics of the basics. And of course, money takes care of all these things. You don't have to worry about these things. Then you've got your safety needs, personal security, employment, resources, health, property. Money takes care of all those things as well. Then you've got love and belonging, friendship, intimacy, family, sense of connection. Now, money doesn't directly take care of these things, but it indirectly does. Because if you don't have money, and the funny thing is, like, people who don't have money are the ones who are obsessed with money, right? Have you ever noticed that? People who do have money are like, yeah, okay, cool. Yeah, it's whatever. They'll spend it easily. It's no big deal to them. And then people who don't have money are the ones who are absolutely obsessed with money, right? They're the friends where you go out with them in a group and they're like taking their calculator out to, get down to the absolute, like, oh, each of you owes me $22.13. Goofy friends like that. I'm sure you've had a friend like that, right? They're the person who doesn't have money, right? Because they have to count their pennies. And it's so much easier when you have money to do these things, to have friendship, because you have time to have friendships. You're not having to work extra hours. You're not having to, stress about money. And so you have time to form friendships. You have time for intimacy. You have time for family. You have time for a sense of connection to another person. You have time to date. You have the money to date. You're taking girls out on dates. It's going to cost a lot of money, right? Especially if you want to do stuff that's fun. And that's yet another reason why you need to solve the money problem. And then when it comes to esteem, by definition, when you solve the money problem with the way that society works, that is because 99% of the time you gave a tremendous amount of value, right? And I'm the type of person, like, I always want to give more value than I receive. That goes back to number 1 on the list, which is give value and expect nothing in return. It's just a good feeling to always give more value than you receive. And when you do that, when you become world class at something, naturally the money is going to come in, okay? And so you're going to have a lot of self-esteem. You're going to have a lot of respect for yourself. You're going to have self-esteem, status, recognition, strength, and freedom, right? That's a huge thing that money buys, is freedom. You have time, location, and financial independence when you have money. And so it's going to boost your esteem as well, because, I know that I'm world class at YouTube. I will say that when it comes to getting clients from YouTube, I am the absolute best in the world. And I can say that with 100% confidence, because I know that I'm the absolute best. I've gotten people crazy good results. Nobody's gotten the results that I have, right? And that helps with your esteem. And it's not like a fake ego type of arrogance. It's like real confidence when you've made that kind of money, right? Because you know that you've given a tremendous amount of value to society. And, this is something that I do even when it comes to hiring. Generally speaking, I hire people who already have jobs, right? Or already successful freelancers. And the reason I do that is because those are people that I know with reasonable certainty are giving a tremendous amount of value because they're successful, they're making money, and therefore society is rewarding them with value, right? In the form of money. And so, this is a very deep one. I could go down the rabbit hole on this one, but the very top one is self-actualization. And again, if you don't have the money problem fixed, good luck with self-actualization, because that's going to take a long time. It's going to take a lot of, you go out to a cabin in the woods, go to some kind of meditation retreat, become a monk, that kind of thing. You need money to support your lifestyle if you want to do those things and self-actualize, right? And so I'm not saying I have self-actualized. I'm not there. But again, money helps with that, guys. When you have the money, especially when you've earned the money, right? Earning the money yourself. Now, if you were just given this money, that's a big problem for rich kids, is they don't have real self-esteem. They don't have real respect for themselves because they know deep down that they didn't earn that money, right? And when you've actually earned the money, man, it's just such a good feeling, right? It's such a good feeling. You feel so good about yourself. So solve the money problem first, then solve your other problems. Once you've solved the money problem, all of your other problems will be so much easier to solve. Do not chase women, chase excellence. The one exception to this is you do want to make sure that your health is relatively good, okay? You don't want to be absolute shit when it comes to your health, okay? But I don't think you should focus on it. I think it should be something that you kind of just use the 80-20 principle on, spend an hour a day working out or like 30 minutes a day or something like that, right? All right, 3, go where the opportunity is. So there's this channel that I like to follow, pretty big fan of him. I really like his philosophies on stuff. And it's called Nomad Capitalist. And he basically helps 7- and 8-figure entrepreneurs save money on taxes, essentially, by moving to other countries, by incorporating their business in other countries and all that kind of thing. And, he has this saying, go where you're treated best. And I like this saying. It's good. But I actually like another one when it comes to entrepreneurship even better. And that is go where the opportunity is. Okay? So what do I mean by go where the opportunity is? It's so easy if you were born in like a small or medium-sized town, or maybe you were born in the ghetto, you were born in you're living poor, you're in Section 8 housing, you're in trailer parks. And by the way, I came from that too. I lived in many different trailer parks. I lived in Section 8 housing. I lived in ghettos. I lived in a basement apartment that was infested with cockroaches and rats and giant wolf spiders. and it really honestly shouldn't have even been legal. It was like almost like a little closet down there. The kitchen and the bathroom were basically the same thing. When you would take a shower, the water would flood into the kitchen. So, yeah, I've lived in like the worst of the worst. I've also been homeless, right? And when you're in this mentality where you grow up around your family, if people in your family aren't successful or people in your community aren't successful, you need to leave. Okay, I can't emphasize how important this is. You need to leave. You need to get yourself around people that are more successful. Going where the opportunity is so incredibly important. So when I was growing up, a lot of my childhood, I was living in Kansas. I was living in small towns in Kansas, and then second half, I was living in a medium-sized town, which is Lawrence, Kansas. And there wasn't a lot of opportunity. There weren't a lot of people that were, really trying to crush it in that area. And they were, big dreamers, and they had big goals and big aspirations. And so, I don't think I met a single person. Well, maybe a few people here and there, but I almost never met people who were making a ton of money online. And so what did I do? I went where the opportunity is. I moved to Las Vegas, where there's actually a ton of online entrepreneurs. It's kind of an online entrepreneur hub. And I moved into a house. It was called an incubator house full of entrepreneurs. And, to be completely honest with you, some of them were not really entrepreneurs. Some of them were, but it was a great experience, and I ended up, running in the community of a bunch of people who were absolutely crushing it, right? And just being around those people, and it really helps to have those people around you. I mean, it's almost like magic. It's almost like osmosis. Just getting around those people is huge. Now, you don't necessarily have to move. You can do it by, being involved in like online courses, coaching programs, membership groups, etc., masterminds. But yeah, just being around those people and seeing that they're human beings and they're not some kind of magical, mythical figure that is just like 10 times smarter than everyone else, and they just see the matrix and they just know exactly what to do, and just realizing that they're just normal human beings and they just, work really hard and they figure stuff out and they have the right mindset. That's what's going to happen when you go where the opportunity is. So not only when it comes to being around people that are successful, but on top of that, another thing that's really important is just simply being in areas where you make more money. The number one indicator that you're going to be successful is your zip code. It's much higher than ethnicity. It's much higher than gender, any of those other things that you hear about all the time on the news and people rage bait about, right? Your zip code is the number one indicator of your net worth. So being in the right places around the right people, where there are opportunities, is something that's so incredibly important to do. And, not only moving, but there's other types of opportunity, not just like making money. One thing I did is I hired a bunch of people in the Philippines, right? And I spend a good amount of time in the Philippines too, because it's kind of like my home base. And then I travel around the world as well. And that's where there was a bunch of opportunity. I saw that, I liked hiring Filipino employees. I hired a few of them. I went to visit my employees, and they kind of convinced me to stay for a while. So, that's another example of me going where the opportunity is. There's been many examples where I've paid, $50,000 to be in a mastermind so that I could be around people that were crushing it. And again, that's going where the opportunity is. So yeah, can't emphasize how important this is. There's so many different ways that you could apply this to your life. Going where the opportunity is incredibly important. Okay. Next one, focus on one thing and then grind until you're world class at that one thing. Okay. So first of all, brain surgeons earn about 10 times more than that of general practitioners. Brain surgeons earn like $1 million a year a lot of the time. General practitioners earn like 150K, maybe something like that. And that is because brain surgeons are specialists, right? So if you want to make decent money, you can be a generalist. But if you want to make really, really good money, you need to be a specialist. So what I highly recommend you do is focus on one thing and grind in that one thing until you're world class. And this is, honestly, I think this is the most common mistake that I see newbies make. Every other week, there's a kid that I work with right now. He's one of my contractors. Every other week, he gets some kind of shiny object syndrome. He's like, oh, I want to do Instagram. I want to do this. I want to do that. Blah, 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 blah. I want to do this, blah, blah, blah. All these different things. I need to do crypto. I need to do this. Like every other week, I swear, he gets shiny object syndrome. When in reality, the one thing he's actually pretty good at is Twitter, right? He's pretty good at Twitter. And you know, he's getting to the point where he's going to be world class at it. And if he just continues working on that, he is going to be a millionaire. But he keeps on getting distracted by all these different things instead of just doing the thing that he's already well on the way to becoming world class at. And I see this over and over and over again. People will get really good at something and then they'll just switch to something else, right? Before they're able to get like great at it, right? Because when you're good at something, it's easy to get good at something, but it's hard to become great at something. It takes a ton of grinding to get into that upper echelon of being great at something. And it's just something where you have to put the work in, you know? And one thing I'll talk about real quick is the hierarchy of competence. So you've got this thing, unconscious incompetence. So this is essentially where you don't know what you don't know, right? So you don't know what you don't know, and you're kind of just bad at this thing. And then conscious incompetence is when you realize that you don't know things, right? You realize you're not good at it, and you realize there's things you need to fix about it. And then conscious competence is where you are actually good at the thing and you're conscious about it. So you understand what you're doing and you're consciously working towards getting better at it. And then unconscious competence is when you're so good at something that you don't even have to think about it, right? It's just your intuition. Okay. So that's the hierarchy of competence. And honestly, with YouTube, I am at this point of unconscious competence. Sometimes I'll tell people to do a video idea, and I can't even fully logically explain why I think that idea would work. I just know that it would work, right? I just know because it's just pattern recognition, right? And that's the level I'm at when it comes to YouTube. I can kind of see the matrix when it comes to YouTube. So, and it's not because I'm some genius. It's just simply because I've spent tens of thousands of hours doing this. You know, I've grown a YouTube channel to 700,000 subs. I make 300K a month, right? I know what the hell I'm doing. I've helped 4 people get to 8 figures. I've helped 15 people get to 7 figures on YouTube. A bunch of other people get to like a full-time income in 6 figures. And yeah, this is another graph. This is the Dunning-Kruger effect. So essentially, when you first start something, and this is why everyone always has shiny object syndrome and they think the grass is greener on the other side. When you first start something, your confidence is very high because you think it's just so awesome. It's going to be so easy to do this other thing compared to what you're doing right now. It's a much better opportunity. And so you have this fake confidence, this ego, right? It's like this fake bravado. It's arrogance, really. And you have no idea the amount of work you're going to have to put in to get good at this thing. Then you start to realize like, oh crap, I actually suck at this, you know? And that's the valley of despair, right? So at this point, you're probably like an intermediate, you know, at this point. But your confidence is like really low because you realize how much you don't know. And then around here, you're actually starting to get pretty good at it, but your confidence still isn't nearly as high as when you first began. And this is that long grind, guys. It's just like, this is the long grind of becoming world class at something. And then finally, you get to the point where you become world class and your confidence is actually higher than what it was when you first began. Right. And it's real confidence. It's not a house of cards. It's not unsustainable. It's completely sustainable confidence. Right. And so that is basically how it works, guys. And, you know, you'll notice this pattern with so many different things. And this is the most common mistake I see people make, guys. Just focus on one thing. There's another really great book. It's actually called The One Thing. It's a really, really good book. Let me see. Is that... Yeah. Okay, here we go. So this is a book I've read several times. Unbelievably good book. And this kind of explains why you should just focus on one thing at a time. So if you don't really take my word for it, or if you haven't fully understood this concept, just read this book, okay? And that'll answer all of your questions, right? Okay, so number 5 is radical open-mindedness. So there is a picture of a guy on here, and some of you might recognize him. This is the Giga Chad known as Sam Ovens. And Sam basically was the first kind of online business guru that really helped me to become a successful business person, because his content was honestly just amazing. His content was incredible. And he focused on the things that people actually need to fix in order to become successful. And there's a couple different quotes he has. One of them is, you don't have business problems, you have life problems that reflect in your business. And if you want to become a millionaire, you need to become the type of person who deserves to become a millionaire, right? So instead of telling everyone, oh, do these little tips and tricks to get rich fast, get rich quick, he basically tells people you have to become the person who deserves to be a millionaire in order to be a millionaire, right? And that is the most transformative thing. Once you fully realize and fully integrate that, that is going to transform your life. Now, what does that have to do with radical open-mindedness? Well, he has another quote where he basically talks about what is in the dark needs to be exposed into the light. If you ever feel stuck on something, what you should do is you should change things up, and you should consider things that you believed to be true that are, opposite of your opinion. You should try to consider those things and really be open-minded towards those things, and try them out, right? And I can't tell you how much this has helped me in my life, because almost everybody at a certain point is going to get stuck. A lot of people get stuck in a 9-to-5, right? A lot of people get stuck in poverty where they never even get a good job. Then a lot of people, move up to a good job and they get stuck there forever. Then a lot of people will start a business, but they get stuck at maybe 5 to 10K per month, and they can never scale beyond that. And then a lot of people start a business and they get stuck around 30K per month, and they can never scale beyond that. And then a lot of people start another business and they get stuck at 100K per month, and they can't scale beyond that. And the truth is, what got you here won't get you there. Every single time you're doing something different and you're striving for a higher goal, you're going to have to change up what you're doing. So an example is, you might have gotten your first few clients with cold outreach, but guess what? That's not sustainable, right? You're not going to be able to sustainably scale your business with cold outreach. So you need to do something like content or paid ads in order to sustainably scale your business. Because cold outreach just is not reliable, and it takes a lot of your own time and effort, generally speaking. And so this is the kind of thing you need to accept, like radical open-mindedness. Whenever you think that you know it all, you need to consider opposite opinions. And this is something both on a personal level and on a business level that will get you really far. So I'll just give you guys an example. I think that communism is one of the dumbest things ever. I think it's absolutely ridiculous that people still think that communism is a good idea, even though there's hundreds of millions of dead people and probably trillions of hours of suffering directly attributable to communism, right? But with that being said, I've really made it a point to try and fully understand communism and fully understand where people are coming from when it comes to communism and that whole philosophy, right? Why is this so powerful? Why do so many people still believe in this despite almost unlimited evidence that it doesn't work? And, I'm not saying that I've changed my mind on it at all, but it's one of those things where I'm just trying to open up my mind and understand other people's perspectives. And that helps you both on a personal level, and much more than that, it helps you on a business level, right? Because that's what we're talking about in this video is helping with your business. And so, yeah, having this open-mindedness, realizing that, things might have been true 5 years ago, but they're not necessarily true now. So things that you might think you're an expert in something, and the market changes, right? There's something that you might have learned 5 years ago. It's you think that this is an objective fact, but it's actually not true now, right? It changed. And these are things that you need to be open-minded about, and you need to be able to accept that change and accept the fact that, you could be wrong. In fact, you are probably wrong about many, many things that you believe to be true. And this is a very humbling fact, but this is something where, like, this is what creates billionaires, guys. This is what creates billionaires, is people who basically take these things that society accepts as being true, and then they go against the grain, right? They go counter to that. And you have to have extreme open-mindedness in order to do that, right? So radical open-mindedness, that's another thing that I learned that made a huge difference for me. Create content, document your journey. So you guys know I have a huge channel, 700,000 subs. It's going to be 1 million subs by the end of the year. And guys, the biggest cheat code of all is, no matter what business model you're doing, whether you're doing SMMA coaching, typically I work with, when I'm helping people make money on YouTube and get clients from YouTube, I work with SMMA owners, agency owners, online service providers, coaches, consultants, that kind of thing typically. And the biggest cheat code of all, guys, is to simply just document your journey. Just make content online about what you've learned, right? Make content online about yourself, for yourself. Just pretend like you're basically talking to yourself a few years ago. And like, if you had a time machine, you could go back in time and essentially just like explain some things to yourself that you didn't know back then. And just tell them, like, hey, this is going to help you a lot. You need to do this. This is going to hurt you. Don't do that, right? And then just like make that content and then document it online, and you help other people, right? And guys, all these big channels that talk about, oh, this business model is the best, that business model is the best. I think like some of them are honest about it, but some of them are a little bit disingenuous. And I just want to bring more like clarity and just truth to the industry. The reason they're making most of their money is because of their online presence, because of creating content. Okay. And that's what the direction of the market is going in, right? Everybody is trying to create content now. So I highly, highly recommend creating content, documenting your journey. It's going to make it so much easier for you to get clients. It's going to make it so much easier for you to scale your business. I mean, even think about it. If you're doing paid ads or cold outreach, cold email, cold call, cold message, people are going to look you up online. And if you have an online presence, if you have a YouTube channel, for instance, they're going to be way more likely to buy from you, right? So create content, document your journey. Biggest freaking cheat code, guys. Absolutely do this. It doesn't even take that long. Literally just share, as you're learning more things, just share insights as you go along. You're reading a book, you have some good insights from the book, make a video about it, right? You found some kind of new strategy that works for your clients, make a video about it, just stuff like that. Just share it. You don't need to make super highly edited videos. In fact, that's not typically what works for a sophisticated audience. A sophisticated audience like just honest, authentic, raw type videos, right? Kind of like what I'm making right now. So yeah, create content, document your journey. Number 7, understand risk and reward. So there's this really good quote by Helen Keller, and this lady was blind, deaf, and dumb. So she had a pretty tough life, right? And she was really an inspiration. And one thing she said is, security is mostly a superstition. It does not exist in nature, nor do the children of men as a whole experience it. Avoiding danger is no safer in the long run than outright exposure. Life is either a daring adventure or nothing. And basically what this means is, when you try to avoid danger, when you try to avoid risk, you're actually paradoxically exposing yourself to more risk. And this is something that a lot of people have talked about, how when you're poor, it's harder to not be poor, right? It's like it's hard. It's like harder for poor people to actually save money, because they simply just don't have enough money to avoid some small thing that happens. Like they have a little health crisis, for instance, they got to go to the hospital. That just ruins their entire year, because then they have to take credit cards out to pay for their food and their rent, and then they get in credit card debt, and it's just a downward spiral, right? And by avoiding risk, you're actually exposing yourself to more risk. So what you need to do is take calculated risks. I'm not saying be stupid, spend your money on some shitty meme coin, or go to the casino and put all your money on black. I'm not saying anything like that. What I'm saying is take smart, calculated risks. And that is going to be the highest probability of success in the long run, right? If you do that consistently. And the thing is in the past, if you tried to do something big, chances are, like let's say 1,000 years ago, the only way to do something big would be to, have some kind of army or something. And if you failed, you probably get killed, right? If you try to rise up and take over some kind of country or something like that, if you fail, you get killed. In the modern world, the consequences of failure are tiny, especially if you live in the West. I mean, the consequences of failure are tiny. You fail at business, whoop-de-doo. You just wasted your time. That's it. So there's not that much risk. It's actually not that risky to fail at business. And so it makes zero sense to not just do it over and over again. Even if you have to fail 10 times in a row, and each time it takes you like a year, right? That means by the time you're 28, you're going to have a successful business. And you're going to be way better off than like 99.9% of people who work 9-to-5 jobs. So you have to understand risk and reward. And it's not just in terms of money. It's also in terms of time, energy, passion, freedom, right? You're risking your freedom if you continue to do a 9-to-5 job, right? You're risking your time, not having the time to do things if you don't get your money situation figured out. Which is going to risk your energy as well, because you're going to be spending all of your energy making money for somebody else, right? So all these types of things, like understand risk and reward, guys. Like truly have a deep understanding of risk and reward. It goes a lot deeper than this video. I mean, I could make an entire video about this, but you truly want to like think deeply about risk and reward. There's certain things you want to analyze the matrix when you're making decisions, like the decision-making process of should I start this business or should I start that business? These are the things that people who become millionaires and billionaires get really, really good at, is understanding and analyzing risk and reward. And it takes a lot of failing in order to really have a good understanding of this. And it takes a lot of experience, like reference experience, to have a good understanding of this as well. But this is something that is like an absolute cheat code if you can understand this, truly understanding risk and reward on a deep level. One thing, for instance, I'll tell you guys one thing. A lot of people I work with are agency owners, and agency owners are super stressed. And the thing about agencies is it's really difficult to scale them, and they're also very stressful. And so you're risking your energy, you're risking, potential other profits, right? From other businesses you could be doing. And a lot of the times people that do agencies end up starting coaching programs because it's much more scalable, it's much more enjoyable, and it's less stressful, right? So think of the opportunity cost, right? Opportunity cost is an incredibly good word. Understand that. And think of the opportunity cost of doing something versus doing something else, and understand how that relates to risk and reward, not only when it comes to money, but also when it comes to time, your passion, how much you enjoy your life, your energy, etc.